Hey guys. Okay, so we are back. We started last week a lesson. Hello, and Yoda's here on fractions and decimals, and I had shaded a part of um, one of these models because we know we were talking about changing decimals into fractions and fractions into decimals, and then we were writing the words, but we were using a model, which is just simply a picture that represents numbers. Okay. So let's go back to where we were last week, and I had shaded one and asked you guys to try to work on it and finish it up at home. All right, so we had this that I left you with last week. And while I'm shading and kind of getting us caught up, I did want to talk about a couple of quick things. One, just remind you of Wednesday, which is April the 1st, but it's not an April Fool's joke. At 10 o'clock, we're going to do a Zoom video chat. And the link to that chat is on the Seesaw website, where you can click in and participate in the video chat. Miss Wilder will be doing that with us, Mrs. Bryant, Miss Harris, and then hopefully most of your peers will be able to join in so you guys can see each other. You can have your parents join, your pets, whatever you want to do, whoever's available. Okay. So that's one thing. And then I also wanted to just kind of remind you that Seesaw is where I will be posting most of the work. And hopefully you've noticed that today I posted a lesson plan for this week. And whatever work you do, please try to send it back on Seesaw, or you can email it, either way. If you write anything on one of the PDF documents, save it and send it back to me. Or you can take a picture of it and send it back. But just make sure that you're sending back any work that you complete. All right, because as we go forward, we're going to be using this work as grades for our last 9 weeks. And that's going to, kind of help determine, our grades for the final year. Okay, so that work is being counted, it is being graded. Okay, so back to this lesson. I had shaded part of this block, which we know this block is not a 100 block anymore. It represents the number 1, the whole number 1. And it is divided into 100 parts, but it's the whole number 1. And then the long strips or columns going down or across would represent tenths. And then each individual little square would represent hundredths. So on this particular model, I've shaded 2 long strips or columns and then 5 individual blocks. Okay, so how would we write that as a decimal? Well, this is the whole number 1, and it's divided into 100 smaller blocks, and I've shaded 25. So 25 out of 100, or 25 hundredths, have been shaded. All right, so I can write that fraction as 25 hundredths. All right, 25 hundredths. Now, how would I write that as a decimal? Same way. Whoops, erase. Same way, except I'm going to use a decimal. And we have 25 hundredths, which is 2 tenths, and 5 hundredths, which is 25 hundredths. Or you can also write that with a 0 and then a decimal, which means 0 ones and 25 hundredths, which is also the way we would write 25 cents or 1/4, like the money a quarter. Okay, so back to our fraction, you may have noticed that this fraction is not in simplest form though. So if you're ever cooking or doing a recipe, you're not going to see 25 hundredths of a cup of anything to add to your recipe, right? 25 hundredths of a cup of milk. That's not going to happen. All right, so we need to come up with a way to simplify this fraction and get it in simplest form, and we're going to use a common factor. So a number that can divide into 25 that can also divide into 100. And we want to use the greatest common factor so that we only have to simplify once. So you may have noticed that the greatest common factor between 25 and 100, so a number that can divide evenly into 25 and a number that can divide evenly into 100, is 25. So I can divide by 25 here, and I can divide by 25 in my denominator. Now, maybe you didn't realize 25 was the biggest or greatest common factor, and that's okay. You might have divided by a smaller common factor, and then we would just have to simplify more than once. Okay, so I'm going to start my numerator. 25 divided by 25 is equal to 1, because we're saying how many times can 25 go into the number 25 evenly, only one time. And then we're going to say 100 divided by 25, which is saying how many times can 25 go into 100, and that is 4. So you can also think of this as 25 cents, which is a quarter. How many quarters are in $1? And that's 4. All right, there's my fraction. In simplest form, I've got 1/4. It is equal to 25 hundredths, which is equal to 25 hundredths, which is modeled in this picture. Okay. We can write the words. You can either write 1/4 or 25 hundredths. I'm going to write 25 hundredths. So 20. And hopefully you guys are writing this with me, or maybe have already written it. You can just check your work. If you write big and you need to write in the margin, that's okay. Excuse me. 25 hundredths. Remember, hundredths has that TH. Okay. All right. So we did this one last time, so I'm not going to redo that one. But I'm going to go down to this rectangle here, which is divided into 2 equal parts. And I'm going to shade, and you can shade at home with me if you like, 1 out of 2 equal parts. Okay, and then, whoops. Okay, so I've shaded 1 out of 2 parts. And then I would like for you to pause the video now, and I want you to complete the decimal fraction and then write the words, and then we'll come back and we'll check it. Okay, so go ahead and pause the video now, and we'll start it back up, and you can check and see if you got the same answer that I did. Okay, hopefully you've had time to complete that. So I know that I've got a rectangle divided into 2 parts. So that's going to be my denominator 2. And I've got 1 out of 2 shaded. So the decimal part, there's not a tooth decimal place. There's tenths, hundredths, thousandths, and so on. 10 thousandths, 100 thousandths. But for our grade, we just deal with tenths, hundredths, and thousandths. But there's not a tooth. So I'm going to start with my fraction. 1 part shaded out of 2 total parts. So I've got 1 part shaded out of 2. Okay, that's easy. 1/2, 1/2. But now I have to change that fraction to a fraction with a denominator either of 10 for tenths or 100 for 100ths or hundredths. So I'm going to start with 10. Since it's smaller, it seems like it might be simpler. So I'm going to make my denominator 10. And I have to see if I can make 1/2 equal to something over 10. So I'm going to ask myself, can 2 divide into 10 evenly? Can 2 go into 10 evenly, and how many times? So you can count by 2s. That's one way to do it. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. Oh, 2 can go into 10 5 times. Or I can say 2 times 5 will equal 10. Well, now I have to find my missing numerator. So if I multiply by 5 in my denominator, then I'm going to have to do the same thing in the numerator. Multiply by 5. So if I do times 5 down here, I've got to do times 5 up here in the numerator. So 1 times 5 is 5. Okay, so I found an equivalent fraction to 1/2, and that is 5/10. And 5/10 I can write as a decimal. That is 5/10. Or I can write it as 0 and 5/10. Okay, and the words 5/10. Hey, I am recording a video, so this is my daughter. She's talking to me.
Hey guys.
Yeah, if you could just give me a minute because I'm almost done, that'd be great. Thanks. Okay, so 5/10. Sure. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to erase this, and I'm going to scroll down a little bit to the next 4 pictures or models. Here. There we go. There we go. Okay. And I'm going to color these in, and you can color yours at home. And then I want you to do the decimal fractions and words on your own independently. Okay, sort of as a formative assessment. Save your work, send it back to me. Either send it as a PDF file to Seesaw, take a picture of it, attach it on Seesaw, post it on Seesaw, or you can email it. Okay, so I'm going to shade these now, and then I'll tell you what to do after this. Okay, let's try blue. I haven't used blue yet. So I'm going to come up here, and I'm going to shade in a part of this block. Can't color. No mouse control today. Okay. So that first one is shaded. You can shade yours at home. And then you are going to, okay, good enough. Write your decimal fraction in words. Okay, on the second one, I've got a square divided into 4 parts, 4 triangles. I'll use pink this time. So I'm gonna shade 2 out of 4 parts. And again, you're gonna write the decimal fraction in words. And then the fraction, go ahead and try to simplify it. And let's do red. Here, this one might be a little bit trickier. I've got a trapezoid that's divided into 5 triangles. And then I'm going to shade a smaller trapezoid, or 3 triangles. There we go. Okay, and on the last one, which color should we use? Green. Okay, so I've got a circle that is divided into 4 equal parts, and I'm going to shade one of the 4. All right, so you can go ahead and shade yours in just like I did. And then you're going to write your decimals, fractions, and then simplify them, and then the words. Okay, and then when you're done with that, what I want you to do as a follow-up is you should have received this lesson plan by Seesaw. So let me clear out all that. And for today, you're going to go on IXL 4th grade math and work on the skills T9 and T10. Or you can go on to MobyMax and you'll see a fraction and decimal assignment that's dated March 30th, which is today. So those are your 2 options, or you can do both if you really want to. So you're going to go on to 4th grade math, T9 and T10, or MobyMax, fractions and decimals. Now, I know this is 4th grade, so 5th graders are saying we're not in 4th grade, and that is true, but 5th grade is going to start working with decimals in our next lesson. And so this is a good decimal review so that you'll be ready to work with decimals when we're doing our next thing with 5th grade decimals. Okay. The other thing that I would like you to do for today is to read the first 2 chapters in James and the Giant Peach. If you have not done that, make a list of the characters in the story, or you can go on to 4th grade IXL language arts. In the lesson, it's an I1. It looks like 1-1, but it's I1. For writing, just focus on IXL 4th grade language arts for right now. The spelling words I'm going to have to get from Miss Hurt, and I won't be able to get those until tomorrow. And then for science, a couple of videos. You can do the Brain Pop, or you can click on these links on YouTube for electricity, static electricity, or you can do all of them. They're all kind of fun. All right, so that's what we're doing for today. And then just stay tuned to Seesaw. I'll be posting more videos throughout the week, different lessons, okay? And then also, if you have any questions, your parents have a number where they can contact me, and by email as well, and I can get back to you and try to help with any questions that you might have. All right, so hope everybody's doing well, and hope to see you guys signed into our Zoom chat on Wednesday, okay? Until then, have a good night. See you soon. Bye.